worry. And I just want to welcome everybody to the Beaver Network. I'm Mrs. Radical, and this is my partner in crime, the Mrs. And we are here covering our good friend, the Moose. The Moose. And we are covering him tonight because he has some things he has to do. Some things going on. So we're going to cover it because that's what life is all about. Sometimes you've got things and stuff. So we're going to talk tonight. And do you want to introduce the subject?
Yeah, so, we're going to be
Wait
talking.
a minute, did I say welcome to the Beaver Network?
I think so. It's 5:01 and it is officially time to start.
Welcome to the Beaver Network. Go ahead.
Yes. You did say Beaver Network. Thank you. Yeah.
What are we going to talk about?
It is going to take time to get used to new terms, and I think if we can bounce back and forth and not be too much worried about that over time, it'll just happen, right?
It'll come, right? Yeah.
So we wanted to talk a little bit tonight, all things elections. So we want to talk about the campaign.
Mm-hmm.
The policy platform will come up, but also about strategic voting. And maybe be able to answer some people's questions, maybe have some people up here that might offer some conversation about how to explain it in layman's terms so that we all can kind of get a good understanding about whether it's appropriate in your riding, whether you should engage in it, or if, because sometimes we think of it in big, broad terms, but we don't apply it to our personal political area. That is very strategic in this conversation.
Very strategic. So do we want to start with smart voting, or do you want to hop into the Newfoundland conversation? Both really important conversations to have tonight.
I think we'll smart voting, since if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
We somebody who's I've been political a long time, but I didn't necessarily understand strategic voting. And the reason I didn't understand it is because it doesn't work in my riding. And I could never make the things connect. And smartvoting.ca whole movement that's going on here through JB, that made all the light bulbs go off for me.
For me, did I interrupt you? I'm sorry. No? I'm just inviting people. That's why. Sorry, I didn't see that.
Sorry.
Oh, hey, Sasquatch. I'm just inviting people up. Just give us a second. Do you mind muting your mic? Thanks, beautiful. What anybody else that popped up? I guess I have invited some people, but that's okay. In our area, we didn't have a Liberal representative for a while. Our Liberal rep didn't come out of the gate for a while. He was approached earlier, but hadn't really made a decision until kind of, here we go. So it's been a ride in our community because nobody expected to have a Liberal showing here. Our Liberal showing is actually better, way better than we suspected. We're about 20% ahead of the NDP that's sitting here right now. But I gotta tell you, the biggest surprise I am facing right now in these conversations with these people that I align with really, really well is they are angry about smart voting, these NDPers.
Oh?
They are really, really, really angry, and they don't believe in it, at least in my space. And I mean, it's getting hostile. I can't believe the way some of them are speaking to each other. And it's just like, if we could just come together, we would have a showing which would maybe grow some confidence in our area, and we'd finally possibly get a seat at the table. But at the rate we're going right now, it's a guarantee we'll split the vote. And I'm so frustrated.
Strategic voting is another option that we have under our democratic principles. And nobody should be discouraged from going away from understanding if indeed it's going to work in your riding and if it is something you want to engage in. I'll tell you this, no party loses their status because of people strategically voting. That's because of a bunch of mismanaged steps within a party, because there is no, like, strategic voting will work only to a degree, and not to the degree that is going to shift, um, um, dismantle a party. And the NDP have got to step up and understand that this is going to be a piece of the story. Strategic voting is going to be how they went down, but it's only part of the story. And don't blame it all on the people who have the democratic right to engage in a process that, for the very first time, seems to have taken some traction because of all of the educational tools that we have available, like smart voting. And there's more of them. Smart voting is only one of them, as I found out.
Yeah. So tap tap tap. Share, share, share. Let's get this out there on the FYP. If you want to pop up, I'll add you guys on as guests. Oh, look, there's Radical. He's off to work.
Gotta go to work.
Okay.
Have a good night, guys.
See ya. Have a good night. Drive safe. I'm just the wifey. I hate that term. So yeah, tap, 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 share this out, get the Beaver Network out. We're here for the conversation. I can add you up as guests. And let's get this conversation started.
Did this help on the mic? I'm just an external mic.
Yeah, do you want to mute your mic? Because it sounds like it's rubbing against clothes. That's the sound I hear.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I just disconnected my portable mic.
Okay.
Is it better now? No? Maybe I'll drop it.
Wait a second.
It's
still there.
It's still there, eh? Maybe I'll just drop and come back up then, because I had my...
Maybe it's a TikTok thing.
Yeah, maybe my device was driving it nuts, but I'll drop and I'll come back.
Come on back, babe. Okay, Sasquatch, you want to start with you? Hello, Sasquatch. Do you want to pop up?
I think she's on a mute at the moment.
Oh, okay. Sparkle, do you want to pop up?
Yeah, I was just a little distracted. I was listening to the news about the measles outbreak in Alberta, and then they were showing a story about how there's a school in Camrose that's completed, except it doesn't have any utilities or roads leading to it. The province is blaming the city is blaming the province. So that had me a little distracted there.
So disturbing, hey?
Yeah.
That's the whole buck idea, right? Who's going to take, responsibility for what, right? Nobody.
Yeah.
That's typical, though.
This is why you don't vote conservative.
Sorry, that's funny. Yeah, that's typical Alberta rhetoric, right? And that's typical Danielle Smith. Blame it on. Yeah. I swear, when she creates a project, the first conversation she has is, so where's the gaslight? How do we gaslight everybody in the process of doing this, right? And maybe she works her way out that way.
If she says that the next time, when someone just hold a mirror up to her face and say, look into that. Now ask that question again. There you go.
How do we get the money from them, and then how do we gaslight them even more?
Yeah, they love the gaslight's the best thing. And I mean, she's like part Republican, so that's what they do.
To find out she had a house in Florida and that she went to school with Ben Shapiro. Oh my.
Not shocking. Yeah. What's your take on smartvoting.ca, Sparkle?
I love it. I absolutely love it. We're still having problems in my local area with, candidates being announced and everything like that, but it's definitely going to sway my vote. It's definitely going to be anything but conservative, but, is it going to go liberal or is it going to go NDP? But too much is at stake to chance it.
And where are you? You don't have to give me an exact area if you want to just give a kind of...
Central Alberta.
Nice. Okay, very good. I've seen actually a lot of promising things from Liberals in Alberta. the
Yes,
seats
some
that
very
come
good
around.
turnouts for Carney's rallies and things like that. So that was very exciting to see.
Yeah, I
Very.
was impressed. He's in Edmonton today, I think.
I'm not exactly sure. I've worked all day and I've just got home kind of thing. So I'm catching
Good
up on
stuff.
all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it's exciting times actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty disgusting what happened in Calgary with the defaming all those liberal signs, like 300 of them. Just think of the emotional energy those far right wingers had to put out there. He
But
actually probably
I wonder how
300.
many know about the fact that it's illegal, and it's an offense to, you know, desecrate those signs, regardless. No matter what you put on it, as despicable as what those symbols were that were put on them, when
Yeah.
you do that, it's defacing property, and you're going to pay for that. It's illegal.
Hmm.
With all these cameras these days, nobody got pictures of none of that.
I
I
don't
kind
believe
of suspect it
they
could
cleared
have.
their Ring doorbell. I think
Yeah.
cleared the cache on that one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I have my own conspiracy theories, so I have to be careful in my head not to say everything out loud that I'm thinking.
Lost the filter at 51. It's completely gone. It's just there's a big old hole in it, and everything
Well,
just comes
I'm
right.
thinking about it, and I'm thinking in Alberta, there's those people that deliver the Sun and the Herald, right?
Yes,
And they're up at like the craziest times in the morning.
exactly.
Like,
Because I used to deliver papers at night myself, and the things that I would see, and the dogs that I had to outrun, and the fresh
exactly.
bread that I would smell at the bakeries when I'm dropping off their papers. Trust
Yep.
me, you see all kinds of stuff at three
All
o'clock in
kinds.
the
So
morning.
I'm just kind of imagining it all in my head playing out, right? And yeah.
Mm-hmm. They'll say Perry points out that they say the liberals the liberals are doing it, right? Reverse psychology kind of thing, right?
Oh,
Whatever they're doing, they're going to be blaming on the liberals. That's why I always know kind of the next conservative strategy or talking point, because it's usually whatever they're saying out loud and smearing the other person for. It's usually what they're doing.
exactly. It's the do as I say, not as I do. I'll distract you over here while I commit all kinds of crap that I don't want you to really know that I'm doing, but that's okay. And go, Sir John, whoever. You know what I mean? Like that's it's getting sad.
Yeah.
Johnny,
Oh, and they're clear as glass.
I'm sorry.
They're clear as glass.
Oh my gosh, they couldn't be. I mean, the transparency is kind of sad, but it's not there, right? Like we can see through you, but everything you say is totally clouded. You know, but we all see it, or some of us do, I should say. Some of us see it, but you know,
I'm getting a little nervous these days.
I can't lie.
Well, Pierre Poilievre's numbers are going down brutal. And I just saw a TikTok. Well, do you know my conspiracy theory?
Please tell me.
Tell us.
Yes.
I will say it's a conspiracy theory. But if anybody has been on TikTok long enough and follows this kind of world that we're in, they know about David Wallace. And they know about him through the Klondike Papers, because he released them, and he was the political fixer of Stephen Harper. So last summer sometime, I'm in the garden doing something, and on my tiki-talkie comes David Wallace, and he almost never comes up. But on this day, he did. And what he said was conservatives across Canada know that Pierre Poilievre is too unlikable to become the Prime Minister of Canada. And for that reason, the plan was that he was there to do the dirty work. He was there and he was put in place to do the dirty work and push the project through. He does his work and he hands it off to Doug Ford. And this summer I was going, no way, Doug Ford, no way. There's no way this can happen. He is way too unlikable as well. He's no different than Pierre Poilievre in my mind. But then flashing forward to after Christmas, Captain Canada, Doug Ford, his Superman shirt comes out, Ontario rises and votes him in, and then he's saying, I'm going to shut your power off, and Canadians rise. And I watched a video just like an hour ago where they were saying Pierre is going to be voted out of his seat after the election in May. And should they biff him now and put somebody in his place?
Well, I could see
That's
that being a strong possibility because it's very evident that, and I'm sorry, the only way I can describe Mr. Polyev at this point in time is like one of those wacky, wild, inflatable flailing tube men. And that's the only thing. That's the best way that I can come up with an analogy. That's exactly it. You got it there. You got it, Miss Radical. It's the whole bit. It is. It's, well, and I mean, it's the constant coming up of more bovine excrement that he just loves to spew to people, and they're eating it up like it's candy. Again, if you haven't, I don't know, maybe it's because I fall under the female persuasion, but I have to say I'm becoming more and more disgusted that two words keep coming out of his mouth. Our biological clocks. That's one thing that I just want to I would like to take a clock and do something, but I won't say what I'll do because it's alive. Anyway, the fact being is that I'm getting very concerned with the number of women that he really wants to shut up. We've seen what he's done to Rachel Gilmore, and I don't care what anybody wants to say. He started this because he did not answer a question that she asked him. She asked a legitimate question. He never answered the question. And from that point in time, she became a thorn in his paw because he did not like that she did not sit down, be quiet, and do what women are supposed to do. That whole thing. To see what is happening here now more and more with the women, and to see, and I don't know if you folks did see, but wherever he was campaigning today, someone was yelling to him in the crowd and asking him a question. And then he's yelling, and he's not, like, kind of ignoring her. And she's continuing to be loud, and I loved it. And she's standing there, and we have a protester. And she said, "Excuse me, sir. I am from CTV News. I am not a protester, and I have a question for you," which, again, he just kind of just totally ignored her as she wasn't there. What is happening here? Because I would have to question any woman at this stage in the game who wants to vote for that man. Tell me why you want to vote for him, because what is he going to do? He has done nothing for almost 21 years. And what he did do was not for the benefit of anybody but one group of people. And it
But
didn't look like me.
I have to say, there is no conservative right now that sits in our house that's worthy of being the PM of Canada. And I really want to make that strong and clear, because we're focusing on Pierre, but what if there is a switch? What if something happens? There is no conservative at all in our house that's worthy of the role of the PM at this moment in time.
Agreed.
That's it. I have to, when you talk about Rachel Gilmore, and how the right took on her, the whole feminist conversation about woman comes into play here, because she is not a good conservative woman.
Exactly.
Danielle Smith is a good conservative woman. Look how they tolerate Danielle Smith. There's a reason she's tolerated in their political circles, right?
That's called a pick me. That's called a pick me. You get a slightly longer leash than the other ladies, but you're still on a leash. I just really quickly, my Juan is listening. He's trying to say hello to everyone, so I'm going to turn my video for about 2 seconds.
Hi, buddy.
You saying hello?
Is he going to say hi? Oh, look at him.
Say hi, but Delana.
Hi.
Would you like to say hello to ladies? They can see you on the camera.
You are gorgeous.
Could I suggest that Danielle Smith is a DEI hire?
I agree.
Absolutely.
I mean, and let's talk about the fact that it's Marlena. Let's say it's Marlena. We're using our name, our given names, right?
And the way that woman used to sob and sob and sob for gay youth. That's the really big switch that pisses me off, is because, you know what? If she managed to stay in the Conservative Party, she could have done some good from the inside. Because that woman, I remember seeing that video, and she was sobbing her eyes out for gay youth. It's like, look at you now. Like, what a traitorous human being. Not just to Canada, but like just to herself as a human. Because she wasn't a horrible person. She is now. She's soulless. She's just completely whoever's got the biggest wiener for her to jump on. She's turned into that girl. Like she's like the town, you know what, that kind of hops around, and whoever gives her that attention that she's like that politically. Whoever's got that power, like that's literally how she operates. She's down in
Michelle
the States.
Nichols the same, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Not to be misogynistic. It's just that that's she kind of hangs out with the misogynist. I don't mind calling her that. She just hung out with Ben Shapiro, so I don't feel that bad calling her a misogynist because
Right.
I'm gonna guess she is one if she went and hung out with him because I sure he'd be hanging out with the edge of my loader bucket. That's all I can tell you.
It's funny, Kelly. Kelly says she nominates basically Daniel Smith for the new HHS Health and
True.
yeah. Yeah.
I like that, Kelly. That's a good plan. I mean, I think that her and RFK would get along famously. You know,
Oh,
her
God.
Tylenol and his anti-vaccines. It's all great.
You know who else is a DEI hire?
They can't see you now. Hang on.
That other judge in the United States. They're all starting to call her a DEI on the Supreme Court.
They can see you. Go ahead.
They basically would say
The
any woman on the
Supreme
Supreme Court was a DEI
She's a
hire.
female. No, but she's a female, and she was one. Amy Coney Barrett. That's who. They're calling
really?
her.
Yeah.
Republicans are calling her a DEI hire.
Oh, that's dirty.
Outside.
After she pushed their agenda for them. That's nice.
Yeah, and Trump's like, I don't know anything about that. He says.
No,
But what
but
do
she
you
gets it.
expect when you build a bunch of racist and misogynists and bring them together? You create the monster.
It's not even that. I don't want to question anybody's intellect or education or anything else, but I do have to wonder, do any of these people know any history? Do they understand history? Do they understand economics? Do they understand how politics work? I'm not sure half of them even understand what they're running for. Like I don't. Like I don't get it. And I don't understand how anybody can vote against their best interests in anything.
Well, and the thing is that it's so sad because it's so hard to pivot them away because that's how they're so steadfast on misinformation. Like Frontline's Live, like people will sit there and they're just like,
exactly.
It's like when you see a truck in the mud, and it's like, hey, put it in first gear, pop, put it down in first, put your 4-wheel in, lock your wheel hubs. No. They'll put it in third and gun it, and it's into the mud. It's like, no, like, no, that doesn't work. No, truck go fast, me big, me get out mud now, me go. It's like, that is not going to work. And like, that's what their logic is like. They're like, no, the conservatives, they told me they care about the working class and it's loud and it sounds good and it's going to work. It's like, it's going to dig you so deep that we'll never get out. Like, no, don't do that. Like it just touches something primal in them where they stick to it and they can't let it go. And then it's an ego thing where, well, being conservative is smart and I'm smarter and I'm on the fringe and you're just brainwashed liberals. It's like they start to like, their ego can't let them let go now because now it's part of who they are. And I'm smarter than the liberals. It's like so strange how something that's not real cuts them so deep and then it's like sticks to them like some kind of fever in like their soul and they can't get it out. It's bizarre to watch. Like it's got to be a mental illness.
Sasquatch.
Like,
Sasquatch. They've been wielding their whole life like this. They were born this way. They were picked because they are this way, right?
Yeah.
And they were lied to
right.
just like we were lied to, right? So it's hard
that's
to hear, but they are indoctrinated. There's no doubt in my mind in the world.
And when
Absolutely.
you see this
And
idea of
what's that young guy on here and he does
when you're looking at this
I was gonna say
idea
there's
of
a guy on TikTok.
maybe mute your mic there for a second, Sasquatch.
Sorry.
If you look at the psyche of a conservative, there's some very base root things that's common to all of the people who say they're being against their own best interests. Because growing up in an echo chamber of indoctrination is a piece of it. And how do you work your way out of that when you're challenged by a fear amygdala response A, that is one thing that's physiologically happening for conservatives. And when you find out that everything you've been told, everything you've learned is not the truth, it is a pain. There's a pain. And it's no different, I think, than when people like deconstruct religion, right? And you have to come to terms, and it's a painful, painful process, and you have to engage in that emotional work to make that shift happen. And so conservatives will, like pain, and they don't challenge themselves. But that's where a lot of it comes from, is because when they get to that pain contact, they'd rather just stick with their old beliefs. And that's
Exactly.
where I hold them all fucking accountable. So move on with it.
It's like being told for years, oh yeah, I mean, I'm hoping that nobody in this area is going to be is under 18. So we'll say there are certain things that we're told that exist that aren't exist, even though they dress up in things and they bring us candy and they'll bring us presents and they'll take our teeth and leave us dimes and quarters and everything else. What is it, $20 now for a tooth? I don't know, inflation. But anyway, and then being told all of a sudden you're believing, waiting all these things, and then you find out it's not, and it's the big bubble that gets burst. You guys must remember what that felt like when you
Yeah, I
found
do.
out that really isn't. That's not how this works. It's who your parental person was who provided those things for you and stuffed that sock and brought those candies in a basket for you, all dressed in with the grass and everything, and took those teeth for you. It's a disappointment. But again, if that is how as you said, Mrs., it's the fact that this is what is pushed at you, push, 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 push. That's what it is. It's like it's beat into you. So then you are made to believe it's a conditioning. It is no more different than the whole concept of the Pavlov's dogs. I'm going to ring that
Yeah,
bell and you're going to
yeah,
sit there
Pavlov
and wait. And
theory.
that is exactly what it is. Again, I said to last night, and I think that I'm not sure if you were in there or not, Sasquatch, during Frontlines live, but and that's exactly it. The number of the people sat there last night and were trying so hard to say that, oh, no, no, this is what's going to happen, and he's doing all this, and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, that, but he can't keep those promises. There's no way that he's going to be able to fulfill the things that you think that he's going to give you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's enough to say, oh, well, we thought we could, but I'm here now, but we'll figure something else out. No, you're not going to get the things that you want. No, our indigenous peoples aren't going to be the richest peoples that are going to be around. Like that, when that kept being pushed, I thought, I'm going to throw up. How are you sitting here and saying these things? You've gone on. You could have done, as a leader of a political opposition, you still had the ability to help with getting things together. Did you do that? And don't tell me it can't be done. Look what Mr. Singh did. With the cooperation, of working together with another party, he managed to get it that we have a dental and a medical plan for, certain medications are now being covered by the government. See what it went when you work together with a bipartisan group. This is how things get done. So don't, when people sit there and say to me, oh, well, that's the job of an opposition leader is to back just say no, 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 no. No, it doesn't. You are there as a person to represent the people that elected you, but also as the rest of the damn country. Because if you want to lead it, you better make sure that you know what you are doing. And setting up a divisive situation here, you are putting us onto the market to be, now we are for sale. This is why it cannot happen. That man cannot come in here.
What do people think MPs do? What do they think the Conservatives do when they're not in Parliament? Parliament only runs for so long. What do they do?
Exactly. Well, what has he done in the last 2.5 years except tour Canada on vacation?
Or any of the MPs. They're supposed to all go back, the Conservative
exactly.
Go back to their ridings, listen to their constituents, and what? Develop legislation to move forward, to offer solutions. So when they are opposing or pushing back on what the government in power is laying out, they have a plan that other Canadians can latch onto. And then during the next election, Canadians have been conditioned to their policies and their ideas.
Oh, the misses. You. They don't do
You nailed it.
that.
Nailed
It
it.
is impossible for them to find time to gaslight us full time and then actually expect them to do
Yeah.
their full time job. Come on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, look at the conservatives up here. They run off the basis of all these blue collar guys and salt of the earth and all these loggers. It's like, I've never heard Zimmer even really talk about any kind of proposal for the forestry. Same with Rustad. You don't think, if, like, say, okay, I'm hoping not, like, and kind of know Zimmer's sat here and we've had conservatives a long time here up in my riding. But say they had good intentions and they got reelected, and even say we had Rustad provincially. Like, I'm sorry, it's a worst case scenario, but if they genuinely went to Carney and had some type of a proposal of even just the economic damage done by the damage to the logging industry, even if they had numbers ready of, hey, our softwood tariff just about jumped to 40% overnight now. It was already 14.5 last year. It's almost 40%, almost half, 50% tariff on our softwood products. And you're telling me if you did not go to Mark Carney with that, he
You
wouldn't
know, I
cooperate
think
and
that
work with
that's
you and
what
try and find a way to
John
make some money?
Rustad would really want. And the truth is John Rustad is a wrecking ball. He wrecked his own family's
Yep.
business. He wrecked his own party, the United Liberals, the BC United, and he is absolutely willing to wreck the Conservative Party of BC. He is. I mean, so many people can tell him stories. Shelley has some fantastic John Rustad stories. He's. I don't
Yeah.
know.
My dad worked there before it went under. My dad was there when they went under, and that's when he started his own logging business because Rustad ran Rustad Bros into the ground. That would, what, like 95 or 96 or something like that. And that's when my dad had to go. He basically went, like, you can't trust this, it's so unstable, so he went into it for himself. And I mean, it was good till about, 2015 it was bad, but by 2019 it was the end, right? But I mean, I can't. And, like, my parents don't vote conservative, thank God. My parents are, like, when I say I understand my riding isn't good, but the people around me vote well. Like, most people I know vote NDP. My parents are pretty typically, they'll go liberal. So, like, which is kind of standard for boomers now, which I'm okay with.
But
Um, and then did you see Mrs. There's a
even
liberal?
though strategic voting won't work in, like, the riding, the northern BC riding, because it's basically estimated at around, last time I checked anyway, almost 70% conservatives would win. Well, the Liberals and the
I
even
know.
combined together are only going to represent 30%. But you know what? This election, combined, they represent 40%. And now our MP has got through our registered vote to realize that there are more people walking away from his party, even if there wasn't enough to not get elected. And it might make him move forward with some of our constituent ideas, um, and maybe pay more attention to them. Just a hopeful thought. That's the idea. Still get out there and vote, even though your vote may not end up being in the party that's going to be elected, because we need to know how many does exist out there between the Liberals and
Absolutely.
NDP.
So I'm going to take this moment to say tapping is clapping and sharing is caring, and help us get this out to the rest of the Beaver Network, if you wouldn't mind. Really appreciate you being there. Hi, Love Base Carrie. How are you? Love Base Life. That was everyone.
And
Do you
to
want
remind
to?
people, we have some goals for the company that goes to share with all of the hosts on the Beaver Network, and also that we have subscriptions. So somewhere around $4.50 a month. It varies a little bit. Sometimes TikTok puts on sales. But you get access to our Discord, where we have very detailed, broken down conversations that come up in these rooms. And then from Discord, of course, everybody has access to our YouTube now. So I'm just doing a shameless plug there.
Love
Thanks,
it.
Ruth.
Thank you
Good
so much.
job.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead, Colin.
I just think that, I mean, we need to. Something needs to be done. I can see that. Unfortunately, here we are, and again, I'm in Nova Scotia. which again normally was a, guaranteed red for a long time. But since have now been for the last 2.5 years, actually heading into 3, have been a conservative province, it concerns me to see that there are people who are looking to vote conservative in this current election that we're working on, because I don't know. I can't see, especially within our situation here, with what had happened with the isthmus that's between Nova Scotia and New Brunswick. If that is not repaired, Nova Scotia will be like PEI. We'll become a floating island,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a major factor for a lot of people, both for work, for transportation, for getting any goods to come through and stuff like that. Like, the more roadblocks that you put into getting products to people, well, we see what has happened in the north, right? Things are going to go skyrocket through the roof. So that needs to be done. And I do not trust that if a certain party was to get in, that would actually be taken care of, or it would be delayed, or there would be a lot more happening. I cannot see someone's logic in trying to tell me that voting for a new party or to get somebody to replace the current party is going to be a good idea.
I think we can expect it to be totally Trump-like if the
I hate to say, I agree with you.
I think
And that's
markets
not
will
how I want to be
crash,
living.
retirements will fall apart. I think
Will.
we can expect the whole like they have told us over and over again, they want to change the system. They want the reset.
But what are they resetting? Like, I mean, really, what do they
Well,
want
they
that
want
they
us
think
to be
or
poor and them to be rich. They don't want any.
well, that's it.
There's no. Right now, we're too close. We're too close. Other
Yes.
people can gain off their wealth. Right now, they don't want that to happen anymore. They want
Right.
And the
the
boomers
gap
have a
to
lot of
be
wealth to
so
take.
large. Pardon?
Yeah, and the boomers have wealth to take, so they're not stupid. They know that they want it. They know that people's retirements are sitting right there, just like everyone's 401ks in the States. There is wealth right there, right for the picking. It's easy to scoop because it's all invested. It's easy to manipulate that money out with stock. So it's the most unethical thing I've ever seen. But I mean, from a
Exactly.
diabolical standpoint, it's absolutely genius because all of those boomers' retirements is sitting right there. It's like a pie on the windowsill, in a cartoon, and they can do, and they can just pluck it. They don't have to manipulate very much. All they have to do is take the stocks to take all of that wealth away from the seniors.
And all
Exactly.
they have to do
And
is stay together and united to do it, and hold each other
Exactly.
up, and prop each other up, and carry the same line. And as long as that all happens, it's going to continue to happen.
It will. I mean, look what he did with the manipulation with what Agent Orange did with the stock markets today. And sitting there and after the whole thing about, okay, well, we're going to hold off on these tariffs again. Now, the stock market was flat. As soon as he opened his mouth and said that, we're going to hold them off for 90 days. What happened? Boom, it went right through the roof. So the thing is here, it's the playing with the yo-yo. Well, you know what? That's people's lives. If they don't have the money to either, for whatever, either retire or to, be remaining retired or have for their health care because they do use investments for paying for, whatever, that's really going to mess with a lot of things. And he does not understand. No, I don't think he doesn't. It's not that he doesn't understand. I honestly don't think he gives a shit. I don't think that he gives a shit as the collapse because, again, this is a game of risk. They don't realize that this is exactly what this is an entire game of risk that they are playing. But the
I
problem
think they know exactly what they're doing.
Well,
I think
and
they're too kind.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's it. But I wish people. I think yes. I think the players. I think the players know that this is a game of risk. But it's us. There are few
We're gonna
that are
pay the
watching
price.
it and they're right into it and thinking it's fantastic. And you really have no idea of what you are praising, backing, and voting for.
So
Yeah.
tomorrow, shameless plug. So my show tomorrow is Finding Your Own Damn Way, and I'm having Path to Where. That's probably how I should have said that in my promo. Path to Where, who is with a background in engineering, been working on this convergent risk index of from studying trends and analytics and a bunch of stuff, um, in terms of the demise of the U.S. economy. And of course, that plays out here in Canada. And so we're going to have a pretty detailed conversation with him about, like, because I can talk some big macro level of economics, but I am not Mark Carney. And if I must say, of all, because I'm a lefty and I've always been more, quote, my heart makes my vote based on who's taking care of social problems. Because in 150 years of Canada, going back and forth between conservatives and liberals, they have gotten up to being a G7 country. So I know between the two of them that they're doing something right, and that the backdoor billionaires running the show are not going to let the millionaires like Tiny Trump or JT kind of money, right? They're not going to let our economy fall apart because of these millionaires. Millionaires in the United States might have a better power here, not in Canada.
That's exactly it. I mean, you can sit there apparently and cry that you've lost millions of dollars because people aren't buying your cars, but yet conveniently enough, the government feels bad for you and they'll elect you to have all kinds of contracts.
That'll be next.
And that is the only way to describe that is dirty politics.
And brilliance with a T. Brilliance. Like, think how many social programs. There could be no homelessness. There could be no all safe injection sites, no overdoses. And I'm talking not here, like the United States scale. 1/3 of a billion people could be so well taken care of. No hungry children. Everyone could have insulin. Like the states could run at such a high level of standard of living for those people. Just the money they've given to Elon. Oh, I was
I
going
think
to say
everybody's
too.
watching Handmaiden's Tale.
Oh yeah, the clues are there. The alarms are going off. Mrs., did you see they have a new Liberal candidate? I guess he just moved to Prince George. It was just like
Yes, I've got his name written down. I don't have the last name.
The thing is, this is 1984 and Animal Farm playing out, and no one is really realizing.
What is Radical?
It's really kind of
Radical says this is Handmaiden's Tale verging into Hunger Games.
Well, I mean, like I say, a part is if we turned around and looked at the first term with Agent Orange, that was the dead zone. And Stephen King, who was the author of that book, even said that himself.
And look,
he said, like I wrote this. Like, here you go.
And any Canadian that's pro-Trump, 2016, that's a pretty magic number if you know anything about our softwood agreement.
Yep.
Because we have been getting completely pounded in the behind with a cactus with no lube since that time, and it's just accelerated. Like the tariff almost doubled last year before Trump, and now it's like almost tripled. It has like tripled overnight. It's like how could anyone look at how similar the playbook is and be pro-conservative? Look at what they have done to the Canadian economy.
Well, when you say that, when you ask how, I think I know in a way, and I don't mean to be rude and be disrespectful to you by interrupting you, Sasquatch. I'm sorry. But I think I know how. I think it's people that they kind of look at the playing field and they look at it like a game. And how are they going to end up? And as long as they end up on top of over us, that's all they care about. That's the
and it's a bunch of the voter base is also, it's either older fellas that lived in a different time as blue collar guys and they want that traditional lifestyle, and it's young men that are kind of pissed off that they don't get that advantage. Well, I go to work for 10 hours a day. I want a wife cooking at home for me and do. And it's almost like they think if they vote into that horrible, bigoted, backwards rhetoric, they almost think they'll get that back. It's like, honey, it's the money. It's the money. Like, like for you could hire a maid, you could buy takeout, you could get Hello Fresh delivered to your house and have your dinners half made for you. If you had the money, you could take care of yourself, because clearly they don't really like women. So, like, they don't really want you there. But I think that a lot of the young guys that like some of the young guys that I hear that are a little more like mid 20s to mid 30s that have a little bit of experience out with dating and long term relationships, that's their complaint is they're like, oh, like they think women are trying to take their money. And it's like, yeah, but you went and got in a relationship and had a kid with a 21-year-old girl that has no education and career. What did you think was going to happen? Because now, how is she supposed to further her career? How can she go back to school with kids? You put her in that
And he
position.
probably picked her because she was that old
You
and that
betcha.
young, or that young and
You
that
betcha.
beautiful, right? They didn't want
Yep.
an old lady that was educated and making coin and bringing it home to share because she might have a freaking opinion.
Exactly.
My friend's hubby 26 she would have been, and she was just starting to go back to school. Her youngest was just going into kindergarten. He was doing really, really well. He was getting into that full day at school kind of mode, and she was looking at school, and like their marriage completely fell apart from that because she'd always been at home. And that he literally, I saw him later. He came into where I worked, and he told me, yeah, I traded in for a younger model that doesn't yap as much. He told me. So he was older than my friend. He was in his 40s already. He was 20 years older than her. And then he went and found an even younger girl that was 19, just got out of high school, didn't know what she was doing with her life, and completely took advantage. And what's really, really, really terrifying, and if you're in Prince George, you might have heard of this, there's suspicions that he tried to burn their trailer down with her inside of it to get life insurance. And knowing him, it wouldn't surprise me. And the irony is that trailer was my friend's mother's trailer. She passed away from cancer in that trailer. And he scooped it and took it in the divorce. He went and started, he quit his job. So he was on small business, starting his own business. So he didn't have to pay her any child support. So she dumped on her butt with 2 kids. She made it work. She made it work. And then this guy got a new girlfriend. And when she started getting older and learning, he literally, we're all pretty sure, I know that guy well, we're all pretty sure he tried to burn the new wife in a fire to get life insurance from her. This is the level. These are the human beings that are out there voting. That's terrifying. And we talk about pure and biological clock. That's the voter base he's talking to. The sad thing is there is an audience for that. That's the absolute scariest thing is that any kind of bigotry towards women and First Nations people, there is an actual voter base for that. That's terrifying.
Mrs.
I do find that terrifying, but if there's one thing I learned from watching the culture war lost for the Democrats, is that the misogyny exists and there's different layers of it woven throughout, and we're talking politics today, woven throughout conservatism, woven throughout the left-leaning side, because there's plenty of misogyny on that left-leaning side as well. What we need to do, though, during an election cycle is realize the majority do not in those extremists that we spend a lot of time talking about, highlighting, social justice activism on, all of those kinds of things. When we're dealing with where the majority of the people don't think about that issue, they think about economics. They think about the health, why Mark Carney is doing so well, as he also, upholds, a level of humanity that doesn't exist, let's say it, on the conservative side. But it is our truth. And if we're going to fight to win, and it's exactly what Mark Carney's doing, he's speaking to the majority of Canadians that don't have these extreme pieces in their lives.
Excellently said.
Yeah. Been beautiful.
I just think that I don't know. I don't understand how someone can sit there and want to, and I think, who was it? He's an author. I'm trying to remember. I think his last name is Parker. Devin Parker.
Yeah.
He's
I
on.
love Devin.
You guys know what I'm talking about. He had made a comment there today, and I said on his post, I said, Devin, we could give them the absolute truth. We could show it to them. We could prove it to them. We could do whatever. We could rage in their face, with our own wacky, wild, inflatable tube bin, and they still wouldn't believe it. Because you know why? Because a liberal said it to them, or an NDP said it to them, or a Green Party member had said it to them. And so, unfortunately, and as we've seen, and I don't even like using that word, I loathe the fact of what Agent Orange has done to politics internationally. Do you notice after he started using the whole fake news, fake news, fake news, how many of our international political leaders have all turned around? Fake news. Oh, that's not real. Oh, that's fake news. Oh, that's just wokeism. Again, I don't understand why anyone thinks being woke is a bad thing. God forbid you're
But
aware
then
of
they
others
tell us to
around
wake
you.
up.
I
Then they tell
think
us to
too,
wake up. It's like, what is it?
with this smart voting piece, though, I'm realizing and I'm seeing that in some ways, even on the left, we're no different.
Yeah, you're not wrong.
You know,
You gotta
when we
look at
tell
yourself, right?
somebody a truth or something that we know, a person can immediately dispel it. I don't believe that because this isn't because I think people are voting with feelings and not facts. They're
Right.
voting with their hearts and their emotions and not with data.
Well, and when we talk about everyone has a lot, and it's true, the way we kind of compare it to a narcissistic relationship, and what is his name? There's a really sharp young guy on here, and he looks at political psychology, and he talks about how even as small children, that the children that are going to grow up to be more left leaning and more right leaning, that the children that are more right leaning tend to have a little bit less performance in the classroom, and also they have a very high level of anxiety and fear. And those adults, you can see that play out. They are more anxious and afraid, and they're not in when you're flooded with cortisol like that. You can't make a good decision, and if they keep them completely afraid, terrified, angry, divided, blaming somebody else, it's exactly the same as the abusive partner that's going to keep pulling that rug so you're in a tornado and you can never get your footing and go, hey, whoa, if I step off this rug, you can't do this to me anymore. And literally, if those people walked away from that platform and walked away from that narrative, they would relax, and they hold on to it like a dog with a bone. Like when we're even like Frontlines Live, like Colleen was saying, you watch how they, like, when you're talking and you're saying something, you're going, hey, actually the Conservative Party, the one guy was obsessed with deficit and debt,
Oh
obsessed,
God,
obsessed,
yes.
liberal. We go, so Justin Trudeau went through a global pandemic, but the Conservative Party, by a large margin, spends more on travel and non-essential things on themselves. We're not talking, a program for citizens, complete spending on themselves, and it's like the rhetoric that you're holding on to caused that deficit. Them going out and campaigning causes that deficit you're talking about. And then you go, the conservatives privatized our oil, and you can hear them just nah nah nah, Trudeau 9 years, nah nah, like it's like a child with their fingers in their ear, la la la, I don't want to hear you. Like they actively push it away, like they're almost, it's so bizarre to, like, it's strange to watch a grown man in their 30s or 40s behave like that and be willfully ignorant. It's like you're hurting yourself, buddy. Like if you're going on an economic basis, you still can't vote conservative based on that because they destroy everything.
Is it wrong that I do that when I see the little man's commercials?
No,
Or I
I
put my
no
fingers in
same.
my ears and do that la 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 la, or curse
No,
at the
I use
television? Like I know.
I don't have cable. I specifically use streaming services
Oh, well, that's
where I
okay
can pay
because,
for
well,
my
then as
ads.
a shameless plug for CBC, CBC
Yeah.
Newsnet is actually currently running, which normally you would have to pay for because it is live television. It's on Gem, but it is extra money. It's
Okay.
currently free for everybody at the moment. So, and
Cool.
all of that information is there. So I know that might drive, unfortunately, like some salt into the wound for some people who don't like the CBC, but at least it does have the factual information and it is available for you and it is free. So there you
That's
go.
cool. When I'm
Yes,
watching, I had Crave, like I'm canceling my Crave because I'm not very happy with CTV and Bell with what they've done right now.
I know.
But I had downgraded my Crave and I'm going to cancel it, and it's just finishing up. The commercials, I'll say the commercials at night are like literally like those, like it's like a parody like, oh my God, voting for Carney will destroy Canada.
Oh, I
Oh
know.
my God, Pierre
Yeah.
Poilievre will save us. Oh my God.
But did you notice now in the latest commercials, you're not seeing or you're not hearing Polyev. You're not putting they're not putting his face there.
Nope.
It's
Nope.
a new voice. You see
Yep.
him and her at the end. And why do they only have one child with them, hey? Did you notice that? And did you notice it's the male child? It's not their daughter, which I actually thought there was three, but apparently there is only two of them. But they never show the girl. It's only the baby boy.
Isn't that
He's probably
Interesting.
scared what his voter base would say.
Six into the conversation here. Just give everybody a chance. We just brought them up into the box. Treaty Six, thank you for joining us.
Well, good evening, lovely ladies. This has been an interesting conversation that I just jumped into. I got a couple things I wanted to add.
Okay.
But first of all, I didn't even real like that is insane what you just said about Polyev and them only having their one child in their ads. And I heard my daughter watches hockey a lot on streaming, right? So she said the commercials during the streaming of hockey games on Prime are so insane and right leaning versus when she watches like CBC run hockey game. So that's really alarming to me that how much misinformation is coming in commercials or like and then the language they're using. But I want to go back a little bit. You guys, you were talking a little bit about remember how folks are getting so defensive about the national deficit. I have asked so many people on the other side of the spectrum that to explain to me how the national debt impacts you personally, and they never can. I don't know how we got to this point where people are so worried about national debt and how they don't understand that when we invest in ourselves and our country, that's a good thing. I'm worried too about some of the rhetoric that I'm hearing, like how I'm hearing a lot of people say liberals like are left leaning, us lefties, we don't listen, we're mean now, like and I'm worried, like are we getting mean too, and are we not listening? Because and like Kim and I were talking in the comment a minute ago, she's terrified, I'm terrified too, and I find that I'm getting divisive as well, and I'm trying not to be. Last night on Lines Live, there was an individual in the comments that I've seen before, and it's an Indigenous person who's very right leaning. And this person wanted up on the panel and never did get an opportunity, and was expressing her displeasure about that in the comments. So I did say, hey, come and join me on Monday. Let's chat. But there's a little bit of like, oh my God, what's going to come up, right? But we need to have these. We still need to try to understand each other so that we can find that common ground. And it's so hard right now because did you all watch CBC last night when they interviewed those people in Medicine Hat? Oh my gosh, I was kind of embarrassed to
I
be
was here.
Albertan. Like even yeah, like even today, because I'm in Nova Scotia, right? And we all kind of we had some new people joining our team, so we did roundtable, and I always mutter under my breath, "I'm from Alberta." Right? I never like to really be very loud about it, but I'm watching these folks on the news last night. There was a definite NDP supporter, a Mark Carney supporter, and two Pierre Poilievre supporters, and they were very civil. Of course, they're on TV, right? So they were really civil with each other. But never did I see them once agree with one another or find a commonality. And how are we going to overcome that? That really concerns me a lot. And this whole conversation too about defund the CBC was interesting to see two Polyev supporters on the CBC. But we're the shareholders. I have tried to explain this to people so many times. Why do you want a news agency that reports to shareholders that are corporate, that have corporate interests? Where the CBC, we are the shareholders. Canada, they are accountable to Canadian citizens. But anyways, that's my little add to the story.
I've been struggling with the CBC personally for about 6 months with some of their messaging.
I agree. I
Agreed.
remember hearing somebody yell, "Is Canada even a viable country?" And then the next day we found out it was a CBC reporter. So there's a part of me that had we had met Mark Carney like 3 years ago and he had handed over that money to the CBC, I would have been like, yeah, you know. Now suddenly the CBC, I see them in a different kind of a light, and everything that comes out of them lately, I'm questioning.
I
I can't put like one finger on what it is,
You
but
know,
I'm always questioning.
I think I'm sorry, Mrs. I see your. I'll let you go. Then I'd like to add to.
I was just going to say, CBC is such a large entity, and we kind of got wrapped up into the only the news cycle piece of it. When Mark Carney says he's funding CBC, it is to put back Canadian artists to work, to put back infrastructure for CBC. The news,
And that I like.
yeah. So
exactly.
I know that in doing all of those other pieces, hopefully they'll correct the course on some of this, some unnecessary influence of the CEOs, conservative CEOs that own those shareholder stocks, like whatever that piece is done. So I'm hoping that putting that money back and rebuilding, that this is what we need in terms of, we have a small population. We can't, it's not Hollywood here. Put our artists off the ground the way they do in the United States. We need to have that support through our government. And CBC is one of the best ways to disseminate that financial support. Anyway,
And don't get me wrong, like I struggle with saying that out loud.
Me
I'm a
too.
Newfoundland girl. I spent many, many, many nights by the wood stove listening to the CBC.
But
You
you
know,
know,
with
think
Ocean View.
about what happened to Rachel Gilmore with that CTV gig she got and then was let
Exactly.
go. So I wonder if CBC is responding to some of the pressure that they might be getting from trolls, and you know what I mean? So they're maybe trying to appease them because they're loud, right? We see how loud they are. So I'm curious if that's why they've started that. And Rosemary Barton, I am just so disappointed in
Well,
her.
that was it. But I've also noticed that again, unfortunately, that the 24-hour news network does play in my home for pretty much 24 hours. Not necessarily by choice, remember, right? Anyway,
Yeah, oh, that's
but if
right.
you've ever watched any of their ticker that runs across, and Mrs. Radical, I totally agree with you. I mean, the last few months has been a major, like, what the hell are you guys doing? Like, I'm saying that more and more. When they turn around and they're running that ticker along the bottom, Carney suspends campaign. What are you doing? No, that is not the word to use. And words, as someone who is an author, words are so damn important. Do not use words like that as a dog whistle. That was a dog whistle by CBC to turn around and say, oh, wait a minute now. Oh, what's going on here? No. Mr. Carney decided to, excuse me, let's use the proper term. Dr. Carney actually had to take a day off from his campaigning to actually do his job as Prime Minister. Listen to those words, lovely Prime Minister. I don't know much
Right.
that burns an ass right into Polya. But anyway, the fact being is those kinds of things are important to say. What in the hell are you doing here? This is not how we report stuff. This is, and when they change that over to that, the CBCNN, what are you
I
doing?
know. I
You're
didn't like
pushing
that
the
either.
American agenda. This is
Yep.
Canada.
I didn't like that either. I
No.
have the CBC News app, and the
Me
other
too.
day, you know how they have the first person stories?
Yes.
They posted an Indigenous Anishinaabe woman who spoke about she's not Canadian, so she doesn't participate in elections.
I saw that.
My gut was, who is this woman? I'm going to look her up.
Yeah.
And then if I caught myself though, right? Because she's entitled. I get it. I know that sentiment.
Yes.
I was like, what is the purpose, CBC, of posting this right now? Maybe a post-election commentary so that people would understand how Indigenous people feel about elections and stuff. But now, I'll guarantee you, people are attacking her because
Yep.
there are a lot of First Nation people who are scared also, and are even have her same sentiment, but know that this is the election that we need to be a part of. And there's also Indigenous people who believe strongly that our ancestors survived so much, so we could have the same rights as other Canadians. And so I wondered what their motive for posting at this point in time. I think that would have been a better post-election commentary. So, but it just create. I had to catch myself. I had to put myself in check, and because I was like wanted to go look her up, right? And then
It's like,
I was like,
what the
okay,
hell? Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I let myself have
Well,
my
you don't want to
emotions, and then I worked through it. But, anyways,
Yeah, the last thing you want to do is dissuade Indigenous people from voting right now. Like, no, please, please, right now is a really important time for Indigenous people to speak up and protect themselves from the corporate interests in the states that pierce. It's like the most important, and like, really, they're more Canadian than me. I'm white. I'm not as Canadian as an Indigenous. Like, you're the most Canadian. Like, you really, really deserve to vote, you know?
Yeah, 5 years ago when I first started on this app, I guess pandemic brought me to the app. And I
all of
remember
us.
doing a video about, because the convoy, all that, tearing down CBC. And I'm like, of course, the right wing is going to tear apart the news that's actually regulated, that demands that their news reporters have a thing called journalism degrees in their life. And now, moving forward 5 years, there's been a big integrity shift from CBC. And again, with the money that Mark Carney's putting back, because the government's not supposed to run CBC. However, they regulate. They regulate.
Yeah.
Put into regulations, because that would really should be limit.
Can I get everybody to mute your mics? We're getting a little noisy, and then we can create that. We don't create that noise. Who wants to go next? Sorry, Mrs.
I
Thank
think
you
we
for
should
letting me up.
because he's been waiting.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, Calvin.
Hello, Treaty 6, Birdie. Yeah, I agree with what you were saying earlier about all the emotion. People are getting emotional in this election like I've never seen before on both sides. People are getting downright personal. Like they're not listening to each other. They're argumentative, calling each other names, back and forth in the Indigenous community. It's probably that way in the broader Canadian society. Like people are calling each other sellouts, everything, and how I thought I had a thought this morning. I was brushing my teeth and I was thinking about politics all night because I was on another debate. And I thought about when this country was first opened, beaver and the fur trade was here. And as indigenous tribes, because I'm Cree, a lot of our people sided with the French and some sided with the English. Not only that, they sided with the Hudson Bay Company and the Northwest Company, like two different companies. And some preferred to trade with the Northwest Company, some preferred to trade with the Hudson Bay Company or whatever. Different tribes had different trading routes, and some were enemies, and they went back and forth. And I kind of see this as that, some natives are conservative and some are liberal, and they're fighting each other. They say, I prefer this company, I prefer that company. You guys are sellouts. No, we're this and that. And there's a lot of emotion, and people are destroying their friendships with one another. I've seen this happening all over on Facebook, argumentative, and there's a lot of high emotion, more than any other election I've seen. And I've been noticing this lately. I don't know, have you been noticing that too, Treaty 6? I don't know if she's there.
Yeah, no, I totally. I don't. Have you seen what's go that? There was an Indigenous woman. Her handle on TikTok is Heather, who phoned Billy Morin's campaign office and recorded the
I
whole
seen that,
call.
yeah. And she
Yeah.
just went off on him about, she's just like totally, yeah, I seen that. And there's another guy, saying that they're sellouts, and he's writing on Facebook that, the chiefs that went and met with Pierre Poilievre are a bunch of sellouts. And they they're scouts for the American army, that led the scouts. They're calling them, calling the scouts, like the ones that fought for the American. They're doing that, eh? But these are our chiefs. A lot of them in our bands that met with Pierre Poilievre, and the reason why they did it is because they're looking for economic development, for resources for their nations that are impoverished, and they have no other choice but to meet with any leader of Canada, whether it be Conservative or Liberal, to see what best deal we can get for our people. Does that mean they're traitors to their people if they go and sit with them? Why would it be any less to be a traitor to sit with Carney? He's just a white man as well, of a political party, no different. That's my thoughts.
And I can respect that. I have sat around these tables though with leaders and both parties, and I see the difference in the way that the different parties approach our people and our rights. And I unfortunately I see a lot of tokenism happening on the right. And like for example, so Perry and I went to a Mike Lake roundtable. He's our conservative MP. And I wanted to go and see because this guy's our representative in Parliament. So I'm going to one of these roundtables. I want to see what goes on there.
What?
And the first thing he said to me was, "Oh, Billy Morin's going to run for us." And I'm like looking at him like, but just because there's one Indigenous person that's running for your party doesn't mean he represents me. So I felt like he really tokenized Billy. He thought that that was going to win him some kind of points with me, and he doesn't know our relationships or and like that. Like I felt that was unfair to put Billy in that position. Like, oh, look at us, good little conservatives. We got an Indian at the table.
I have an Indian friend.
Who does that sound like?
Yeah.
I have a
Our
friend
token. Look at
in
my
the
African
Bible
American down there, right? Remember
Yes.
that. And that
Yes.
is exactly what that
With Trump.
was.
Yeah, that's wrong.
And this is again,
Wrong.
it's disgusting on how that happens.
I don't
This
agree
is
with
an
that.
amazing causeway into the next. Did I say that right? Causeway into the next conversation. Actually, so I'm going to jump on
Excellent
this
job.
piece because the missus is going to educate us a little bit about what's happening in Nova Scotia and in Newfoundland on the piers right now. And it's an important piece because we've seen these people be weaponized against our indigenous people out there, right? So go ahead and educate us, Mrs.
Oh, thanks. Thanks. I'm feeling on the spot. I just wanted to talk a little bit about. So I'm from back east in a beautiful colony. I'm actually from the Miramichi. If you're familiar with Miramichi in the district. So that's my
The
backdrop.
Miramichi.
Yeah, from Chatham is where I'm from. And,
Nice.
yeah, so I go back a long ways. And my husband's from Newfoundland, and he happens to be from Petty Harbor. And Petty Harbor is, let's just say there's been a little bit of shenanigans going on there with Tiny Trump. And it is about how the political is personal. And I want to say that, it definitely has been a topic of conversation in this house. So what happened was there was a skirmish, a scruffle, between the journalist and the Tiny Trump campaign that was in Petty Harbor to do announcements, to have a propaganda, opportunity to say their messaging. And I listened to the message and I was like, this is so bizarre to have this incident in a place like that. So Trump showed up into a community of about 500 people. That's how big Petty Harbor is. Petty Harbor has been, my husband can trace his ancestry back to the 1600s and more. This has been, one of the first places settled by Vikings and all that. Big history there. Now, Petty Harbor and the next harbor over, Maddox Cove, are really pivotal harbors. They almost united under a movement with St. John's, but they have indeed a separate federal agreement that protects their fishing rights off of those two particular coves. And the reason they have those is so that the industry won't come in and fish out all of their stock. So they have a special agreement to have those waters protected. And Tony Trump was in Newfoundland at Petty Harbor with a group standing there saying that he's going to deregulate. How can he deregulate an agreement that's been in place since 1895? An agreement that was reviewed, I believe, in the 60s at some point. But the overstepping, and like, what happened? What happened? I'm looking, and I know these people. There's no way there's a fisherman on that wharf that's going to support what that man is saying. And I thought, if there is a fisherman there, then he is from industry, big industry, that want to come in and just get closer to the shoreline and take all that stock that's been protected for the small fishermen, right? And it protects stocks and all kinds of environmental things as well. Anyway, so there's Tiny Trump, and what happened was he bussed in 30 people, about so has been reported, 30 people on a bus, and that's who was surrounding him. They weren't community members. They weren't the workers in the warehouse or the factory that he ended up going to. And when he got off the bus, all of these people had already been bussed in to do this photo op with him. There was journalists were told to stay far away from his bus, and they were being there was a couple of fellas I heard, by the way, on the wharf just having a conversation when one of Tiny Trump's staffers came over and told them that they needed to get out of the way, and they're just like, go off your hat, you don't get to come in and just control people like this. But that's what they were doing. So Tiny Trump's media team were aggressive with the locals. They were aggressive with the journalists. They brought people in there, and they made a big enough by deregulating those waters.
And it reminded me when they did that a couple of years ago on the wharfs of Nova Scotia and Halifax. Right? They got came and they got rough with Indigenous people in Halifax.
Yes, they did.
Really
they
bad.
did, and it came down to there was what was it, more than $2 million worth of lobster that was destroyed because of the issues that, for everyday fishers in comparison to what our Indigenous people were catching. And again, going back to the whole moderate or modest, what is the word how am I going to say this? A modest fishing industry, so that it's providing enough for them, providing food and all of this. And I get it. They're not taking away massive amounts. They're not fishing tens of millions of dollars worth of lobster or eels or elvers to get themselves, to make the big amounts. They're not doing this. They don't have a fleet that they're paying, for ships for all of this. They have a modest livings. That's the difference. And this is something that, again, comes back to the treaties that allows this to be happening, right? So how you're going to come along and stomp all over something that you didn't have any say in to begin with, and that has been established for how many years, is extremely insulting. This is what concerns me when I see people who in that whole term, and he says, "Oh, and we're going to make you the richest Indigenous people." Stop it. Stop your bullshit, because that is not the case. And if it is, you're going to do the same thing that is going to come back to it. Sure, they'll have all of this money that comes to it, but there'll be clawbacks, and you'll take all of this, and you'll only turn around, and they'll be, "Oh, but we got to take some of this, and this is then for your people." No, stop the bullshit. No one can actually believe that that's happening, and it's scary to me because, again, you're dangling the carrot in front of people who need it the most. What are you doing?
That's the connector piece. If you're a conservative,
exactly,
you're going to cut people off, right? You're going to overfish. You're going to drill, baby drill. You're going to put all of our resources at risk, no matter
100%.
what. And you're going to turn against the people, and you're going to get physical with them.
Tiny Trump, is that just
worked? Think how that works with conservatives feeding the base. Look how he's reaching out to Eastern Canada. Look how he's partnershiping with them. Look at the staged performance he put on there, and it's going to satisfy all that conservative messaging out west. I'm going to put my knees on.
What are the polls at right now anyway? Like, I thought there's like a 4% lead by the Liberals.
Yeah, but I still wouldn't trust that, because you just never know. And again, let's go back and look at the first election of Agent Orange. We all said, "Oh, it's never going to happen. The cat grabber. We're not going to touch that guy. We're not going to do that. Oh, no, don't worry. Hillary's getting in. Oh, no one's believing it." And I have to be polite. We all know that I have a mouth and I will say whatever. But the fact being is that I have the ability to just swings around. It's the wordsmith. Anyway,
The cap
the
grab.
fact being is that you're so full of shit and that they're eating it up like gospel, right? Because look what happened. Look what happened. I cried that night. I cried to find out that that man had won. I'm shocked. How the hell did that happen, right? To see it happen a second time, again, what is it? To me, it says that, unfortunately, Republicans don't like women, and that's been evident on how what's happened in the states and having the rights taken away from them. And if one more damn conservative tells me that, oh no,
Yeah.
Jeff's not going to take those from us, you're, well, you know what? I won't say that word either because I don't want to get banned. But wake the fuck up and shake your head, please, because
Yeah.
saying one thing and doing something else. A leopard does not change its spots. A leopard does not change its spots no matter what you do,
Yep.
right? And if you're going to listen to the crap that someone is going to feed you, and when they turn around in the end and you see, we have seen how many Americans want to come into Canada. Please scoop us up. Please make us your 11th province, right? That is saying something.
Yes.
I do not want people to wake up the next day after they have voted and say, what the hell did I do?
Exactly.
I see the real negative in the comments.
If I could comment back on, this promise that we're going to be the richest in the world, like richest First Nations and or Indigenous people in Canada, I have seen. This is 28 years I've been doing this work. I know what these deals, what the strings are.
Yep.
And it always means we have to give something up, and something up that is really tied to rights. We would lose probably likelihood and ability to have any type of free, informed prior consent. And they would probably require us to have some form of commitment to permit the fast tracking of resource development. To me, any type of a negotiation with Indigenous people takes a lot of time. So you can make all these promises that, we're going to make you the richest. On what terms? I want a good 5 years to negotiate those terms. You're not going to just come in here and be like, oh yeah, this is how it's going to be, sign on the dotted line. We're not like, we don't agree to that anymore. Maybe at one time our people did, because they were unfortunately didn't have the same access to education that we do, the same experience and that we have. And they remember, don't ever forget, at one time it was illegal for First Nations to hire lawyers.
I feel like John Resta, thank you, Treaty Six Birder. I really appreciate you. You always nail it. I feel like John Restad in BC told Indigenous people and Canadian people really what the conservative intention was. And the conservative intention is that they want your tree money, they want your resources. They want your tree money, they want your water money, and they're going to start there and they're going to pillage after that. I don't trust them.
No, I don't either. I've seen this too many times. And even talking about the fishing situation, and that I don't know how many people realize, we were not permitted to fish for more than sustenance. So that was only to feed your family. You weren't permitted to fish to sell it. So there's been cases now, because tell me that sustenance evolves. We are now competing for these resources with non-Indigenous people, with other Indigenous people, because resources are less and less all the time. There's less moose on the land, less fish in the waters. So we're competing all the time for these resources. So of course we must evolve into a place where we're monetizing some of what we do too, so that we can sustain ourselves. And if that means we have to sustain ourselves with money, then why should we be denied to the opportunity to use our rights as leverage to be part of economy? But that's really what a conservative government does not want. The rights conversation involved in any resource or access to resources, because it limits their ability to access those resources, because the environmental parameters around protecting rights cost a lot of money and take a lot of time.
And
I
when
know.
we look at the conservative ways, like we're talking about Rustad, they want to control it. They're not good at it. The indigenous people know what they're doing. They have done this for thousands of years. They know what they're doing. And when we look at the conservatives, look, they privatized oil. Rustad tanked Rustad Brothers. Why would we be trusting conservatives to run those resources when they are so bad? They smash and grab, take a ton of profit, do it unsustainably, and screw everybody in the process. And then nobody can get a profit after a while.
The real native. When are you going live again? I liked your debate. I mean, your discussions last night. It'd be great to
I,
have
I was,
those
I
again
was, I
soon.
was talking with Schmercy. I'll probably go live again tomorrow.
All the time.
Yeah. About I'm thinking about 6 p.m.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll be there.
I wish I could bring up a picture that was taken just today of my granddaughter holding a 23-pound northern pike, and it's I'm making sure it's still happening. We still hunt and fish for sustenance these days. And if our rights are gone, if the land is gone, stuff like that is going to go with it. The oil is temporary, land is forever. I will say that till the day I die.
Oil is only temporary. It's not
Mhm.
of course. It's just a fact.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Sasquatch.
Yeah,
And
and
if I could add to
money.
that just
Oh, I was
for
just going to
one
quickly.
second.
Oh, I was just going to say, money can't buy you back the land too. So you can have all the money in the world, but if you can't, there's no healthy food and no land and water. Money won't help
Yeah.
you.
100%. And there wouldn't be an issue like this doesn't have to be an issue. Where the issue lies is that and I've heard this from elders for 17, 18 years now. All the industry wants to do is take, take, take. They never put it back. Like that's why we have orphan wells in Alberta. That's why we have companies that go bankrupt and then they dissolve the company and form a new one and start all over again. It's the same damn people, but then they don't have to take care of their liabilities. We have mines that were never remediated and reclaimed properly. We have forestry that just goes on and on and on without a plan for establishing habitat, because when they reforest an area, they reforest it as a crop because they're going to harvest it again in 30 years. So if there were some give back with the take, there would be some balance and we could all be part of this glorious economy and still have our rights and still have a healthy, clean environment where our future generations can have access to all of the resources they require to be indigenous people on the land, but also non-indigenous hunters and recreation users and all of that. Now we're all fighting for the same little parcels of land. Look at campgrounds and things. Look at how our rec areas are getting in the mountains and things like that. Like we're competing for the little bit of space left because they don't put anything back.
Yeah, can I interject if that's okay? I feel like we keep coming back to the same conversation, and 100% I agree with everything that's been said. We keep coming back to this conversation of a Canada or a world, but in our case, Canada, especially in an election time, that benefits the greatest number of people versus the conservative, benefiting themselves and their pocketbooks. And as I think Sasquatch, you said that they're not very good at anything that they do. They're not good. Conservatives are not good at managing budgets. They're not good at managing resources. They're terrible when it comes to human and civil rights and indigenous rights. Like they're not good at any of it. What they're good at is lining their own pockets at the expense of everybody else. So this keeps coming back over and over and over again. And we're seeing this god awful example of what's going on in the United States right now. In the extreme, that in the matter of 90 days, this man was able to destroy, a 250-year economy, and based on, not such great things, but an economy as well as an entire legal structure. And I think I feel that in Canada, we have this opportunity to not do the same thing and not make this mistake as well. Because if we elect a Poilievre government, we'll be in exactly the same spot, because this guy is a Trump clone. He's a Republican clone. He's an extreme wing clone. And I just back to the earlier conversation, then I'll stop. I think, Treaty, you were saying, Are we in the middle or on the left? Are we the ones that are getting nasty? I actually don't care if we are or we aren't. I don't think we should ever question ourselves about that ever, because we are on the right side of this for all the reasons that all of you wonderful people keep talking about and people that we all know. I think we need to really, for me, focus our efforts on pushing our message and getting people out to vote and voting in our own best interests, and that we don't need to worry about whether we come across as nice or not nice, or engaging people who really are only about insults and hurting other people, and won't talk about anything that's substantive. So for me, and I'm a bit probably not as nice as you are, I don't have any desire to question my own motives in that, or to engage with people who are not willing to have a good faith discussion. And I don't know at this point if there is a middle ground or a point where we can meet, or do we need to get through this particular election if we can get a Carney majority, hopefully government, and maybe this ugly right-wing Conservative Party can reset itself, and people who have blindly followed with that ugliness and that simplicity, that they will hopefully go a little bit more to the middle. I'm not sure that we can do that in this time, unfortunately. So I don't know if that makes any sense, but we cannot have in this country what they've done in the United States. We just can't. So I know for myself and my family, our efforts are directed at talking to everybody we know to try and get them to look at what is their best interest and how do you vote accordingly. Because Treaty, you're right. If Conservatives come in, they're not going to respect anything about the reconciliation process, treaty rights, duty to consult, nothing, because they don't care.
You're
I'd like to
still loving and throwing yourself on a statue of a man who did horrible things in Canada
Exactly.
to Canadians, to the original people of this land. And
Yep.
you want to continue to praise him. Wow, that says a lot, right?
Is
Right then and there should be a reason to say, yeah, I don't think you're the good option to be leading this country.
Well,
he
and you
is he
sound
losing his
so
mind because he was talking to that statue, asking
But
him
had you noticed that he's doing the exact same thing, though, Real Native, as what Trump would have done? Look how, he was, well, can we use the word, well, maybe we shouldn't. Becoming fresh with the flag. There we go, right? Like that's what we're going to, like all up all in that business, right? That's
right.
just kind of gross. And I find the same thing. It's the playbook. I wish people would understand
exactly.
this is all being led by the IDU. This is all happening because of this. People need to really listen. What is happening, right? Pay attention.
They have
And
And
also looking at how now Pierre's saying, oh, we want to look at, money offshore and tax. Honey, you just got endorsed by Harper. Are you kidding? How do people not go put those together and go, huh, that's a little fishy.
I
Who made those loopholes for that money offshore? Huh, isn't that crazy? How do you not have enough deductive powers to go, you just got endorsed by the person that made those loopholes? What are y'all doing? You're sitting here biting your own tail and then getting mad and bigoted at people. It's like, maybe you should stop. You're just literally fixing your own mistakes now. Like,
You
it's
know
like,
what sound is running through my head, Smarshy? You got endorsed by a candidate. You're going for a candidate that was endorsed by the KKK. Remember that sound?
yeah,
Well,
I
these guys tell you who they are, right? They tell you
Well,
who they are.
yeah, I'm sorry, the real native was
exactly.
just speaking.
Sorry, I didn't hear
That's
that. My
okay.
that's
apologies.
okay. That's okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, all I look at TP's campaign as, and when he says he's offering this and that to the indigenous people, going to make them the richest people, this is nothing more than damage control. Because he's got to backtrack from every bad thing he's ever done, even when he was under Harper. He's got to backtrack on every bad thing he's ever done to the indigenous. He voted against every bill we put forward. He voted against MMIW. He voted against Every Child Matters.
Yep.
He voted against every single indigenous bill that came down the pipe. And, he makes no bones about it. Bill C-69 is the latest vote against something that would help Indigenous people have their say. You know, Marcy.
Wait. Yo, sorry. Go ahead. I wanted to give the missus the next opportunity to speak, and then we'll go back to Women Against Polyev, and then we'll hit Empowered, okay?
Yeah, I was just reading Smarshy.
Okay, sorry. Finish up Real Native, and then the missus will take over.
I'm done.
Oh, thank you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so when you've sort of got like the two sides to Tiny Trump, because he riles his base all the time. Because you know why? Because they vote. Because those people don't get apathetic. Because they're the ones that actually get out there and show up. And that's why Mark Carney becomes very, very important. Because let's face it, Harper offered that man a job because he's a banker, because he's an economist, because that leans to conservative ways. So Mark Carney is, sort of that, let's just call him a right-leaning liberal. We could put him in that framework. But that's what's going to win the centrists out of the conservative vote, because they don't want to be associated with that far right extremism of the base. So I'm holding on to a lot of hope that is indeed what's going to happen, is that Mark Carney is going to bring over all of those people who don't exist in those extremes places.
Exactly. Yeah, I totally agree with you, Mrs. I think the guys like Polyev, they tell you who they are, like the John A. MacDonald nonsense, the biological clock, all of the disgusting things that he said. He's telling you who he is, just like Trump did. So to not be under any illusion. I was just wondering, and I may have missed this conversation, if you guys saw today that CTV reporter, Judy Trinh, he was in Sault Ste. Marie, and he had all the reporters in a parking lot, and he had them behind barriers, like they were in this little 8x8 barrier cage. And then they had to yell at him their one question that they were allowed to have. And I guess this Judy asked him a question, and then she wanted to ask him a follow-up question, and he basically called her a protester and dismissed her. And so again, this absolute trashing of the media is, again, it's another one of these Trumpian things that he does. And he's telling you who he is. That's an authoritarian play. So I agree with you, Mrs. I think Mark Carney is I'm holding out a kind of hope for him. The polls right now are looking good as long as people get out to vote and do the strategic voting as well. So he's a guy I think that people feel confidence in, and he's a steady, competent guy who can lead us through this incredible pain that we're about to go through because of Trump. So, but there's nothing under the table with Polyev. He's telling you who he is. There's nothing that people will say they couldn't know about him if he does get elected, because he's told us.
I'd still like to know why he doesn't have a security clearance, which was why he was upset and calling that reporter a protester today, because he wouldn't answer the question. Security. And so she just yelled it a little bit louder, and that's
Exactly.
lost it.
And I mean, the number of people who don't understand the fact that has to be updated, regardless of that you had it before. It needs to be updated. And people who turn around and say, oh, we'll get the information from someone who has it. Nobody in his party has that level. And if you walk into an election thinking, oh, I'm going to be prime minister, I want you to know what the hell is fucking happening in the country with everything that's going on at the moment. And if you are going to be that willfully blind and ignore everything, well, that says a lot to me that you're not fit to be a leader. Deal with the ugly, because unfortunately that happens, and you have to deal with it too.
And the sad thing is, like me sitting here as a blue collar woman busting my butt, not a big fan of landlords either, and he's sitting here talking about my biological clock ticking and boots over suits, and I'm like, honey, like, I'm in boots paying for you to be in your suit, and there is no biological clock ticking, except that, like, I'd like to own a home before I retire, and it has absolutely nothing to do with my reproductive rights. Don't bring it up. It doesn't need to be part of that conversation. You go, young Canadians are struggling, or middle-aged Canadians are struggling, or seniors are struggling. It shouldn't have anything to do with a gender bias. And by bringing that in,
I want to give Sasquatch. I want to give Empowered a chance. It's Marsh a chance. Sorry.
Smarsh, are you there?
Plug something and I'm sorry.
What are
I
you
thought I had.
thinking?
Um, there's a lot to unpack here. With the upcoming election, I am not terrified as much as I used to be. I am scared, but I'm not terrified. I've had conversations with Real Native, Curiously, Mrs. Tweety Bird, all you wonderful people, and I did get a, I did get tagged in a video that I want to pose to everybody. It's if you know the creator Nitty, fabulous, fabulous creator. She did a video on the Harper Decade. It's a website. If you haven't checked it out, definitely go check it out because this will prove to you that under Harper it wasn't any good, and under Paul, yeah, it's about to get worse for everybody. It's specifically with duty to consult that Treaty Bird has been teaching us about. Um, Undrip, everything like that. I went over the video. I have the video. I can post it in the Discord if you'd like to see the video.
Yeah, we'll go look at it.
I
Thank you.
haven't put it in there just because I wasn't sure if I should put it in there or.
Yeah, put it in, Smarsh.
Okay, perfect. I'll do that. And then it that broke my heart, but that's a whole nother day, another story. I was talking to someone about, the fact that Paul Yev wants to um somehow magically, you know, be tough on immigration now, right? My question to them was, okay, that's all fine and dandy, but what about his uncle that came in here through Roxham Road? And they're like, well, they were sponsoring him. Like, no, because sponsoring doesn't last 20, 30 years or however long he was here undocumented. So you can't really sit here and say that. And he was going off, and then it turned into daycare. And he said, oh, yeah, that's another thing. See, under Harper, I couldn't afford daycare. And then someone without kids told me, well, why didn't you just take your kid to a park? Okay, why didn't I take my kid to a park? When I'm working or I'm in school full time as a student, trying to get an education, to get a better job, to be able to afford more daycare while I'm a single mom, right? So it's just a whole bunch of cluster in my brain. I'm trying to get these guys to answer this, and they're always like, "Oh, it's a sponsor, it's a sponsorship." Well, you don't just fast track a sponsorship like the way they did for that guy, because if that's the case, then you have to fast track everything for everyone else that immigrates to this country. Oh, he was fighting me. He's like, I'm TFSA, and I'm like, yeah, but it, yeah, it was just wild. So just, I will definitely put it in the Discord. Um,
Thank you. Thank you for that. I wanted to know if people wanted to talk about how it's interesting that the Conservatives don't have a costed platform yet, and that part of their playbook is to put that costed platform out after early voting starts so that they don't, um, so people don't have a chance to see the real deal here, and they don't lose those votes from the early voters. Does anybody have any comments
are
on
you
it?
talking about the plan that he has, and then the plan to delay the plan, and
Yeah,
then plan
the
to
plan.
execute the plan?
Yeah, the
Yes.
plan is to have a plan, and that plan is to enact the plan that you have the plan
But no,
for,
no, 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 no. This is how it goes. It's a plan to have a plan,
right?
to delay the plan, to execute that emergency plan.
Is that the
Three-step
plan?
plan.
Is that the
Yep, that's
plan?
the plan.
Oh, okay.
But
So I was on
yeah,
plan B, and that was plan. Okay, I see.
yeah, three
That's
steps of plan. Just having a plan.
fine.
When we sit
Personally,
back and we talk about hearing about the whole situation of our biological clocks, and again, anybody who doesn't, well, even if you do stream services, because now there's commercials everywhere, um, we're talking about the situations that the current going on with our Indigenous peoples, both with the fact that we're talking about the Jordan's Principle situation and everything that happened about people taking their children being taken from them. And then the fact we're also going to talk about we've taken the Indigenous women and then we forced sterilized them. right? So
Oh, the
those are
last
two
case.
compensations that are situations happening here at the moment. And again, you're going to sit there though and talk about biological clocks. It's kind of a bit of an ironic slap
Yeah,
in the
see,
face, in my
I
opinion.
I had a birth alert on me, and I didn't know it was a birth alert until someone mentioned it. And then there's a case in Northwest Territories, I believe. I'm not sure what city. There was a young lady who went to go get her cyst removed from her ovaries, and the doctor removed her complete reproductive system without her permission.
The fuck?
Tell a story, if you don't mind.
Mr. Radical, we can't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Okay,
Yes.
sorry. The fellow in
Okay.
Canada that's endorsing this bill and pushing this bill is a failed DJ from Alberta who has no college education, no university education. He is not a doctor. He
My
has
baby
no
boy.
background, but he went to church every Sunday and he was a homeschool kid from charter school
Yeah.
out of
Isn't it
Alberta.
funny how it's always a man that couldn't tell you what day of the cycle a woman's period starts? They could not tell you the absolute most basic parts of a woman's reproductive system, and they have really big feelings on things. And
Yeah,
this is,
it don't
I think,
affect
it
them.
ties into the original conversation
And
of
they,
that
I
the
just
fact
want to,
that conservatives don't have a platform because that's a power play. Because if you start to actually put information and lock in actual platform policies and actual facts, they can be picked apart. If you just go, oh, you put out something that triggers emotions and it's vague, then it just gets the votes you need. It gets everyone riled up, and people aren't able to attack it because it's so vague. And the attack on reproductive rights is exactly the same as the rest of the conservatives'
oh,
platform. It's vague because you can't criticize it because there's no details to criticize. That is intentional.
yeah,
Thanks.
but,
Let's Treaty
oh, go ahead.
chime in here. Sorry.
Yeah, if you don't mind, sorry, just a little story to share about the conservative mindset in Alberta, and I'm sure elsewhere. And this comes from this is a direct experience I had working at the Department of Indian Affairs, which is now Indigenous Services Canada. So back in the 90s, Indian Affairs devolved education to the First Nations. So a lot of First Nations hired their own teachers because teachers on reserve used to be employed by the Department of Indian Affairs. They weren't employed by the nation. So the nation started hiring a lot of their own teachers. So these people were without jobs now, the original Indian Affairs teachers. So many of them came to the department and they filled different roles in the department. One I worked with, this woman that was a teacher, and I remember her and I worked in the same kind of area, not the exact same department, but in the same area. So we ended up at a coffee break together. And I remember like we were talking about some of the social issues on reserve, like addictions and FAS and things like that. And, what are some of the solutions? I was still pretty young and really new. I grew up, in the city, so I didn't have a lot of lived experience on reserve. But I was seeing this for the first, and I was like, how this is really awful what's happened to our people because I was very protected from that. And so we were talking about it as colleagues. And I asked, as a young new employee at the department, like, what are the solutions for this? And this woman, who was a teacher on reserve, looks at me and says, sterilization.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Yep.
See,
And she was a teacher.
Wow, she should be fired.
Oh, she retired with full pension. She worked there for the rest of her career. I was appalled, but I was new and I didn't know how to react to this right now. In hindsight,
I would have told her that's disgusting.
that's disgusting.
it's awful.
See, I'm
But
supposed to
she's
go to
not the
someone.
only person that holds these.
No.
I'm sorry, Smarsh. Go ahead, Smarsh. Go. It's your
I'm
turn.
done.
See, when I had my child, it was it was a rough pregnancy, rough labor. I'll spare you the details. After the like 17th hour of like actual hard labor, after being induced for 3 days, I was exhausted. I wanted a C-section. They're like, no, we're not doing a C-section. We're going to give you an epidural. Hopefully this, and I'm like, no, I want a C-section, please. Like, just give me this. 8 hours after I have my child, my doctor walks in, well, the doctor who delivered him, he goes, so I don't think you're going to be a good mom. So I'm going to have someone from social services come and talk to you. And if
Wow.
it wasn't for my mother who walked in, who is whiter than white and like translucent as ever, comes in and doctor's like, well, I don't think they're going to be good parents. Okay, well, this is my first child, so how about I, go about my day and you just leave me alone? I didn't know that was actually a birth alert until someone mentioned it to me.
That
My
was me.
dad came in the room. They wanted to like have my dad out of. They didn't want my dad in the room. They didn't want anyone in the room except for my mom. It was almost like they were picking and choosing who I could have in my room.
And as a YT person, when I had my child and I was in the hospital, I was in a room, like I shared a room with an indigenous
Yep.
lady, and she went through that. Like we were getting ready to give birth to our babies, and there were social workers, like what was supposed to be the most special time in her life, and there were
Yeah.
social workers showing up, saying things that I won't say. It's not. It
I've heard
just
them
was
all. I've
not
I've heard
okay.
them. Yep. I've heard
That's
You
them.
know,
Trust me.
there. My brother Mark was adopted out of our family the same way, right from the hospital. Um, when my mother had my brother, instantly there was social services there, and they told my mother, "You can either give him give him to us, or we'll take him from you, and
Yeah.
it's going to be easy. You know, either way, it's going to be easy for us to do." So my mom felt like she had no choice, so
Well,
she gave my brother up.
And how is that no different than what at residential schools were happening, right? Like
right.
Exactly.
But
realistically.
and did everybody sign the petition to have that denier removed?
I
Okay.
signed it.
I
Okay.
didn't get to sign it yet, but
Okay. I'll send it to you.
yeah, I got to drop down, guys. I'm gonna go eat.
Thanks for coming, Real Native. We appreciate
Not a
you.
problem.
Um,
Mercy. And
Bye.
I'm gonna be doing a live tomorrow. Curtis, Treaty Six, Schmars, all of you guys are invited to come tomorrow. 6
Okay.
p.m. I don't. You said you might not be able to make it, Schmars.
I don't know.
We'll see.
I'll let you know. We'll talk about it later.
Okay. All right.
And
Yeah.
I'm supposed to have knee surgery,
Yeah.
and I'm
So
terrified
I'll be
because
there.
Mm-hmm.
Round
Yeah.
I
up.
don't know what this doctor is gonna do.
Yeah.
My mom is so adamant about me getting my tubes tied, and I'm like, okay, but then the government doesn't want to do that because they want to pump out more babies, but then they want to sterilize. So I don't know what they want from me,
Right.
right? Like it's, and
Marsh, you have to do what's best for you,
Yeah. Yeah.
not what
I
they.
just want the medical team just alone.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'm at that point where I don't think I'm gonna have any more children, so you can stop, Like,
Mm-hmm. But yeah,
So
Conversation
I'll
one
put a
time with
video
a gynecologist who said to me, because I had endometriosis for like a long time, and they kept wanting me to have the hysterectomy, and I was in my late teens when I found out. And I'm like, I just like, I sat here and I said to you, I want, you're gonna cut your balls off.
oh my god.
Like you wouldn't even have a fucking, like you wouldn't even bat an eye about why somebody might say, hey, no, maybe I'll punch it another day before we go through amputation.
Oh god.
Like just I don't know why that popped into my head. I hope it fits into the conversation or somewhere, but
I've got to get going too. So have a good
So
night.
thanks for showing up. We appreciate you.
Yeah. Thank you for all the information. I always learn lots, and yeah.
So we're wrapping up in a few minutes. Does anybody want to
I'll be here for a
finish
few
with
minutes.
a final thought? We
Um,
can
I just,
go
I,
ahead, Saskia.
I just think it's really important that if you are part of a vulnerable community, if you are First Nations, a woman, queer, trans, even if you're just in a lower economic social status right now, if you have any kind of vulnerability right now, really go out and make your voice heard, because right
Yeah.
now we're on a precipice where some pretty scary people are in power, and they're going to take away not just social services towards people that need them and take away regulation that protects them. They may actually put harmful legislation into power. And I just want people to stand up for yourself and just try and vote for government that you think will give you the power to continue to do what you think is right for yourself. And no one's here to tell you how to vote, but just make sure you're voting truly in your own best interest. And if you have that covered, you should think about your community's best interest too.
Yep,
Great
I love
message.
that. Thanks.
Great message.
You're next.
No,
Steve?
Okay.
empower. Who's doing that?
No,
Yes.
okay. I'm just gonna say one thing real quick. I'm dropping down. It's just vote. Go out, do vote when you have to vote. Even if you don't want to vote liberal and you're struggling with that, just vote liberal. It's strategic voting is the best. In your look in your writing, and just everybody have a great night. Take your meds, hydrate, do whatever you gotta do for self love.
Thanks, Marsh. We appreciate you. Women Against Polyab.
Just want to second what Sasquatch said. Vote for yourself, vote for your rights, vote for your children's rights. And I'm going to say vote Liberal, because that's your best chance, unless you're in a real NDP riding, which seems to be few and far between. But go out there and vote in your best interest, if not the Conservative Party. And thanks. I learned so much from all of you. Mrs., we're going to have to talk about my hysterectomy story one day, not in public. It's a fun one. Anyhow, thank you very much. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. We appreciate you. Treaty Birder. Treaty 6 Birder. I never say it right.
It's okay.
Oh.
Don't worry about it.
You're so kind.
I want to say to Women Against Polyev, thank you for the reminder, because and what I do as a consultation lead is I really always try to find common ground and practice kindness, and I feel like I failed when I feel like somebody feels like I've attacked them or I'm not listening properly. So I do appreciate that reminder, because it is important that we stand true to ourselves, and this is such a critical point in history, and we need to come together and find common ground in the direction that's going to take us to a place where we all have our rights intact. Where our future generations, like everybody has said, I'm so worried about our future generations and what we're leaving for them. But I just, and I'm just also so grateful for all of you, because this community sustains me and helps me stay grounded and keep my mental health in check. So I love you all, and I appreciate all of your kindness, your voices, your positions, and your experience and knowledge and wisdom you share with me. Hi, Kinaniskomta now. Good night, everybody.
What an honor. Thank you, Trudy. We love you. Beautiful. How are you? Share away.
I have to say, and to go back to boast what everyone else has said, I have to say this group, this platform, the people that participate in this, you folks have actually provided me with a lot more peace and hope. I have to be honest. Yeah, and hoping that people will realize that it is for the betterment of everyone. If you would vote, if you would practice your vote, and again, I realize people want to say, "Well, I want this," but vote with your conscience. I want you to be able to wake up the next morning after you've cast your ballot and say, I did the right thing," not say, "Did I do the right thing?" And that's just what I want to say. And I thank you very much. This is an amazing group of people with so much knowledge. And I really appreciate everything that you guys put out, how you express yourselves, and how you allow us to also express ourselves too. So thank you very much.
Just made my heart feel so big. Thank you. See.
Yes, I totally agree that we must always protect the earth and the environment, and that should be primary before anything else. The earth is it's who we are. It's we can't destroy it for wealth. At the same time, we have to like protect the environment, and also how do we manage resources within our territories and those things, because we shouldn't be living in poverty as indigenous people in our own lands while the Canadian society benefits, and we're the only people not benefiting, yet they're destroying our environment, they're taking out everything. There needs to be something that works for all people. Whatever leader can do the best for indigenous people in this country, has the best platform, that is who I encourage any indigenous person to vote for, because that's their best interest. And where I'm from, the conservatives are going to win hands down. Whether I vote or not, they're going to win because they've always won, and this is their stronghold. Other areas, yeah, they could swing. It could swing other ways, but my area is already determined. Whether I vote for them or not, or hate them or like them, it doesn't matter. They're going to get in. It's a fact here, because my area is an area where there's a lot of oil and gas and resources. And not only oil and gas, we have timber, we have diamonds here. We have everything. Like, my area is probably, besides Fort McMurray, we're right beside them. We're probably, have just as much, if not more, in resources. And how that's going to affect my nation going 100 years from now, how things are going to be, I wonder, like, how will things be? And how will we handle what's coming, as a people? And I wonder about that, because more and more activity is going to happen in our lands, and more of our territories are going to be opened up for resource extractions. Whether the Liberals are in, or any government, even if the Socialist NDP gets in, they're going to. I remember Alberta was NDP, and I thought, oh, this is so great. They're going to do something for us natives. Like they were in power before, and I knew some of them. Even one of them was my friend. He was in politics, and I said, oh wow, I remember you. You were for natives so much, and I was so happy that you're in there. So I remember him when and I thought, oh, you guys are gonna do so great for our people. And we had a land claim, a TLE. We waited so many years. I said, you guys will get it and help us do it, and then nothing happened. All the things that we it was just like any other government. Just like under Conservative or NDP, the same thing that we were under was the same thing. And I had high hopes, and I thought things would have really changed. And I've seen that under the Liberals too. I thought, oh, the Liberals will do something. They promised us things, and yeah, they did do a lot of improvements, but still overall, a lot of our people are not where they should be, and some are because they put themselves there. But that's what I see as an Indigenous person. I know everyone comes from their own point of view, but this is my truth and what I see right now. And if any party can give us a good deal and a better deal, I'd be ready to vote for them and support them. If they came and said, okay, we're going to give you this, and I know they can't give us back everything or promise us the world, because that's just impossible with the way things are right now. But at least if we could have something, that's what I always think.
Thanks for sharing. I really appreciate that. And I echo a lot of your sentiments. The missus?
My mic's off. Oh, yeah, that was all of you guys summarizing your thoughts here. Really touched my heart. And, like this whole Beaver Network thing, it's just, oh man, it's so good to be part of this. And I would be lying if I didn't say I didn't get all these needs satisfied here as well, right? Because where do we go with this stuff? Where do we go with it? And I tell you can come to Finding Your Own Damn Way tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to see my show, where I'm going to have Path to Where. He's my guest tomorrow, and we'll be talking economics, no doubt. And hopefully Women Against Polio will be joining us for pieces of that, and whoever else can come along. So anyway, I just really appreciated everybody's conversation tonight, and helping keep it real.
Thank you. I echo everyone's sentiments on this panel, and I just appreciate that. I remember when I first met the missus, and we were talking, and this conversation started because people were screaming on lives, and they couldn't hear each other, and they were there was no respectful conversation maybe around politics. And I remember saying that's just all we craved, was to have minds come to the table that could have respectful conversation. And I know it's corny, but I feel filled up by this network now. Even if it is a lot of the same people, we're having better conversation. The Beaver Network. We're having better conversation. We're having stronger conversation, and we're teaching each other. There's never a time when I'm sitting in a live that I'm not learning something. So thank you everyone for joining and coming. I just really appreciate you all. And vote. Vote. Early voting.
Thank you. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Take care.